But when our wives or someone else comes into the room and they go, Mark, I'm in the cubicle that says watch TV, especially if I'm watching Curse of Oak Island. Don't bother me. I'm just telling you right now. Don't bug me while I'm watching Curse of Oak Island. They are on the verge of finding treasure, man. And I know they've been saying that for 10 years, but that's okay. They've actually found tunnels now, so at least the tunnels are real. They got pictures of them, and I've seen it on TV. But anyway, so when I'm in that cubicle of watching Curse of Oak Island, don't talk to me during that time because I'm in that cubicle and it doesn't have any words and I have nothing to say to you. So when my wife walks in and says, Mark, I'm not ignoring her. I am trying to get out of one cubicle and try to find the cubicle that my wife is talking to me. That was a joke, guys. Come on now. If she was in here, I would say the same thing. And so anyway, I got to get out of that cubicle and find the cubicle, talk to my wife. Now that cubicle has words in it, of course, unless she tells me just to listen. But anyway, so I find that cubicle, then I go to the net, then I go back to my cubicle. What happens for a lady, and again, I'm not trying to make excuses. This is the way that God designed us. Because as God designed us, there's purpose in the sense that I guarantee you, like this, I'll give you a great example. When Jesus said, when you put your hand to the plow, do not look to the right or to the left. Now, who did the plowing back then?
Amen.
A man did. And I'm not trying to be sexist or whatever. I'm just saying that's the way it was. And you got to understand, back then, it wasn't you jumped in your John Deere and hooked up your plow behind it and went down and fueled up and you went down. You hooked your plow to a horse and you had to push that thing down while that horse was going. And I've shared with you before, they would put a stick in their mouth and then can't even think of the words. Reins, thank you. The reins would go up to the horses, and how he would control that horse is turning his head. Well, you got to be pretty focused.
Yeah.
God designed us a certain way.
That's good.
So that we're focused. Us guys, when we're doing our job on the roof, man, I think of Pablo as I look around, he's up on, you got to be focused. I've helped do a couple of roofs a couple times, and you best not step on that air hose. As he laughs, because he knows exactly what will happen. You step on that air hose, it's round, it rolls. So what happens, you step on the air hose and your foot goes down because it's on a slope and you're like, whoa, man. True?
Very true.
Very true. I've done it. I can admit to it. I've done it. And so you got to stay focused in what you're doing. Now ladies are completely designed different. They're like a plate of spaghetti. Not that your life is all mixed up. Please don't take it that way. Your life is connected. Where we have cubicles, every strand is like one of our cubicles. And they all connect one way or another. This strand of spaghetti touches this strand over here on the other side of the plate. From that, to that, to that, to that, to that, to that, to that. Right now, you ladies have, in the last 30 seconds, have thought about anywhere from 3 to 5 different subjects as I was telling things, and you're still paying attention to me. Us guys, if we don't, we're just like, next cubicle. And you're not even listening to me. Where ladies can do that, and they associate everything together. So in other words, you can start on one subject and end up on a completely different subject within 30 seconds, and us guys are like, how'd you do that? How in the world do you associate going to church with, I need butter? I don't know how church and butter have anything to do with each other, but somehow you've connected church and butter. Because you went from, oh, it's church, after church we got to get the food together. Oh, I've got a piece of French bread that we're going to do, and I've got the garlic, but I forgot butter, and I haven't gotten butter yet, so I need to run to the store to go get some butter. And us guys are like, I thought you were just in church. We're in our cubicle, and that's it. And we're there. Now the problem is this, is that us men, we want to cut your spaghetti up. We want to make it into little tiny bite sizes, like our cubicles. We don't want your spaghetti to touch each other. We want it to be all lined up perfectly, just like our cubicles. And you ladies, you want to break down those walls of our waffles. And so that the syrup mixes all together into one big thing. We don't want you to do that. We don't want that to happen in our life just as much as you don't want us to break or cut up your spaghetti. You do not want that to take place in your life. We don't want it. Thus is the conflict between male and female generally. Most guys can kind of do, we definitely can do one cubicle. There's a handful of people that can do, a guy can do 2 cubicles at once. We can do it two at a time. 3, that's called nervous breakdown. 3 cubicles is pushing it for somebody. But ladies, you can multitask. You've got so much. I mean, man, I've seen my wife, change a diaper, talk on the phone, and cook all at the same time. And I'm like, I'll just talk on the phone. I don't know. Diaper's going to end up on the head. It's not going to look good at the end. And so the thing is that you can multitask in so many different things. But what we want to do is that you want to break down our walls. We want to cut up our spaghetti. We want to cut up your spaghetti. And now we have conflict. Why doesn't he understand me? Or my wife just keeps on babbling. No, I'm joking. But that's exactly what we do. But if you already understand, men, if you understand that your wife is designed that way, it takes pressure off of you. At least it does me. Because there's times that my wife will begin on a subject, and I know we're going on a ride. I already know it's happening. We are going to end on a different subject, so I just try to keep up the best I can. I may not catch everything in the middle, but I definitely try to hit the beginning and the end when she finishes. And I'm not saying that rudely or meanly to my wife or whatever, but I can't comprehend all the stuff in the middle. I can't keep up. I honestly just can't keep up with the stuff. And for generally, most men can't either. And there's times that I found out of being married to Laura, and it's taken us years and even reading this book, that I found out that men, I want to tell you right now, women don't want you to fix all their problems. Sometimes all they want you to do is listen. That's it. So Laura and I, we have come to the agreement that there's been times in our marriage where she will come to me and she goes, Mark, I got a problem. I go, hey, before you tell me, am I listening or am I solving? And she goes, I just need you to listen. I said, okay. And then I can now I can jump in. I've created a cubicle that says, listen to Laura and don't solve her problem. So I jump in that cubicle. I already know where I'm going. So I jump in that cubicle and I stay right there and I'm just like, oh man, that's bad. Oh, that's not good. And am I comprehending anything? No. Not by any means whatsoever. But I'm agreeing with her, and then finally she's done. She's like, I'm not saying this condescending to her. I'm like, you feel better? And she's like, yeah. Thanks for listening to me. She asked me to listen, not understand. So I listened. Didn't understand everything, but I listened. So the thing is if you can do that. Women, on the other hand, when a guy starts to talk about a subject, and I always just pick finances. We want to talk about finances. Don't talk about your kid's soccer game on Saturday. Because somehow you can relate that soccer game, your tank is empty and there's not enough money in the bank account, and so now you got to talk about the finances, or finances going to, there's not enough gas and finances, but you got a soccer game and you got to drive to Prescott. How are you going to get enough finances to drive to Prescott? But you got to get the kids to the soccer game. Not talking about the soccer game, talking about finances. And so stop trying to cut up or break down the walls, and just, if we start on a subject, stay on that subject with us, no matter how hard it is to stay there. Because your mind, God created us that way. It's okay. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm saying God designed us that way, and I'm glad my wife can multitask and do all those things. When I do laundry, a Saturday, I'm not trying to toot my horn, but Saturdays I have off, Laura has to work, so I do the laundry on Saturday. I do all the laundry on Saturday, and so when I'm doing laundry, I'm in laundry mode. And I get it all done. I'm going. And I did it, you know, softener, everything. I got it all down. I got it down pat of the way I do it. And I'm in that cubicle doing laundry. And so the thing is that, I don't know where I was going with that. See, I lost my train of thought. I do that. See, I was trying to be a plate of spaghetti. It does not work for me. I'm just telling you right now. But anyway, if you begin to already have that concept, stay on that subject for the ladies. For guys, realize that they're going to talk about multi-subjects. And if you could do that and don't solve their problem, but then there's times Laura will say, yes, I need you to solve the problem. Yeah, well, let's hear it. Now I'm really intent because I want to solve the problem. Because us guys generally are problem solvers. We want to solve the problem, fix it, get in. You know, years ago, they always, you know, Venus Mars book that came out years ago. And we're like hunters, you know, where we want to go in, hunt. You know, if we're getting a shirt, we go in, we find this, we hunt. Bam, that's the shirt I want. Let's go. Where women are like, let's go to the sales rep. Let's go over here. Well, let's go over to this side of the store. It's the same on that side of the store. Just grab a shirt. Let's go. Because we want to hunt, move on, and just go to the next thing. But again, it's the plate of spaghetti that's coming out from you. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that that's bad. But guys, if you would create a cubicle that says, going shopping with wife,
be there all day.
Be there all day. You're going to look at many outfits. And you begin to create that cubicle. You can jump into that cubicle before you leave the house and already have it in your mindset, and you will be less frustrated. Women, on the other hand, if you can realize that he's going to go in, grab the first shirt that doesn't have a stain on it, hanging off the rack, and he's going to grab it and go. If you say get a greenish shirt, he's going to grab a green shirt, and we're out of there. But I wanted to look. We were talking about looking around. We're talking about getting a green shirt, and we're leaving. So if you can create a spaghetti noodle that says that, still attach it to all the rest, your life becomes a lot easier. You're not nearly as stressed, man. I mean, you can go through, and you can say, well, I'm not married. If you got kids, your boss, people you work with, people here in the church. Have you ever listened to a conversation? This is one of my favorite things to do, is that when we get into a big conversation and we have all the ladies together in this group over here and all the guys are over here. If you listen to a guy's conversation, women listen to a guy's conversation. We'll be talking, even Bill and I, we'll get talking about our reenactment and being in the movies and everything, and then we'll talk, and then we'll go, hey, are you going to go to the gun show on Saturday? Because we had to find a different cubicle to go into. And guys do that all the time. Listen to their conversations. Hey, the Super Bowl's coming up this Sunday. The Chiefs are in it, by the way. Just want to let everybody know. And so the thing is that we have lulls in our conversation. But if you listen to a lady, and again, please don't take this as negative. But when you listen to a women's conversation, it does not die. It does not end, because they can go from noodle to noodle to noodle to noodle, and it makes complete sense to them, which is awesome. It's incredible that God designed you that way, that you can do that. And it's so awesome. It's very intense for us guys, but that's okay. We just got to stay in our cubicle, and we'll be okay. And so it's so important if you guys remember that. One of the stories that he tells, one of the stories that he tells in the book is that a young couple got married, and they were only married, I think, like 6 to 9 months, if I remember the story right. And she went to this guy that wrote the book, and I can't even think of their names offhand. And they went to him, and she was ready for a divorce. 6 to 9 months in the relationship, she was ready for a divorce. And she said this. She goes, all he does is go out and work on his car in the garage. He had like a hot rod in the garage. He goes, all he does is come home from work and work out on the hot rod. I don't ever see him. Then he comes home, eats dinner, takes a shower, and then goes to bed. And so he said this to her. He said, before you go and get divorce papers and you do anything like this, can you do me a favor? She goes, all right, I'll try anything. She said, go out in the garage and talk to him. Don't sit inside. Go out in the garage and talk to him. And she's like, this is stupid, you know. But she did. She went out in the garage and she sat there, you know, she came out and kind of looked at her, went back to, you know, tinkering. And he said, and he also told her, he said, ask questions about the car. So she began to ask questions. She knew nothing about cars, nothing about hot rods. She didn't even know make or model or anything like that. But that began, and he began to talk and talk and talk. It was about his car, though. He told what kind of, the jets were in the carburetor, the gear ratios, the cubic inch of the engine, transmission, what else he wanted to do, and just talked and talked and talked. And she was just like, She had no idea what he was talking about. And finally, he stopped talking. And he was like, and she was like, you know, kind of like, what do I do now? And he stopped working, and he got out of the hood, and he goes, hey, I just want to thank you. You're the first girl that has ever showed any interest in my hobby of building flowers, and I want to thank you. He went back to work. She said we spent every evening out in the garage talking about it. And it saved their life from just a simplistic thing like that, because we want to cut the wall, break the walls down on the waffles, and we want to cut up the spaghetti, and we want to turn them into us, and they want us to turn into them, and we're not designed that way. And if you can get that concept in your marriage that you're not the same, it makes life a lot easier. It makes things a lot simpler, that you know you can already predict that this is happening. On the other hand, there's another story that he tells, that a wife comes in and she's ready for divorce. They've been married for years, 30, 40 years. The guy comes home and sits in his recliner and does absolutely nothing. And so the counselor said this. He goes, look, you got to find what's one thing that you like about your husband? She says, absolutely nothing. Nothing. All he does is sit there. And he goes, let's go off of that. She goes, what do you mean? He's there, right? You can count on him being in his recliner, right? And she's like, yeah. He said to her, you need to find as many ways possible as you can to thank him for being there. So she worked, she wrote some stuff down, and so that next day hey, there's the book, thank you, Mike. There's the book right there. And came in, and she said this. He said this to him. The wife said this to her husband. She goes, I just want to thank you for always being here. No, sarcastic? Yes. Very much so. I can always count on you being here. In the first few days, very sarcastic, after a while, she began to give him compliments along that lines. You know, it's always good to know you're going to be here for me. Well, she's referring to here in the chair. Here for me, but here in the chair. You know, type of idea. One day she came home, he was not there. She panicked. She actually began to look through the whole house, went upstairs, not in the bathroom, not out in the garage, not in the backyard, and she's like, oh my gosh, he's dead. Where is he? He's always there. And she's like freaking out, and all of a sudden he comes in, and he's got a thing of candy and a bouquet. And he hands it to her, and he says, hey, I was thinking, let's go out to dinner tonight. You know, sometimes the smallest things that we can change and begin to do that. If they're in that cubicle, yeah, us guys, we need to get out of our cubicles. Not break down our walls, we just got to create other ones and move into other ones and do more things. And ladies, sometimes you need to slow the boat a little bit down on so many subjects and so many things. You know, let's go to Phoenix, and we got to hit 30 stores while we're down here. How about 2? Let's just make it 2. I don't need to do 30 stores today. Let's just do 2, because I got cubicles. Now see, some of you are laughing because you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. It's true. I mean, you need to read this book. It's absolutely incredible. It's a very good book. And I mean, it's been out for 20 years now. I think it's been out. And it's still so relevant today. And so it's important that we remember those things, those little nuances in our life that makes us different. And there's times, I can remember one time I was walking down Walmart aisle with Laura. And I was walking down it, and there was a box of something, and it had a really cool car on it. And we were talking, and I was talking, and all of a sudden that car caught my eye, and I turned and I looked at it, and guess what? I stopped talking because I jumped into let's look at the cool car. And so my voice stopped at that point, and Laura stopped and she turned around and looked at me, and I go, I switched cubicles, sorry. Because I knew what I did. I recognized it right at the very beginning, and she kind of chuckled at me, and we continued on with our conversation after that point. But I couldn't talk to her and look at the cool car at the same time. It just was not going to happen to me. And so if you can, ladies, if you can realize that, not that men are dumb or anything like that, but that God designed us to stay focused on one thing until it's completed. God designed us that. And women, if you could do that, and men, if you can remember that God designed women to multitask, that they can do many things more than we can do at one single time, and let them be. Let them do what there's times I just get out of the way of Laura, man. I try to go into the kitchen. How many have ever gone into the kitchen to try to help your wife, and they're just like, why don't you just leave? I can get things done a lot quicker without you being in here than you trying to help me.
Get out of my way.
That's right. Thank you, Candy. So I back out slowly. I don't turn my back on my wife. I let her do her thing, man. And I'll tell you what, I get into the cubicle of let's eat, baby, and I'm hungry. But I help her whenever I can, set the table or whatever, anything like that, as long as I try to stay out of the way. What was I going to say? There was one more little part of this that I wanted to bring up. I was actually going to bring my book and everything, and it's packed away somewhere in my shed from the move a year ago. And I'm like, I ain't going to find it. So anyway, we'll just let it be. So I'm trying to do everything off of memory. Man, there's one more part that I wanted to share with you guys real quick about the book. Praise the Lord. Doesn't matter. The last little part, and I got just a few minutes that I want to share with you, and hopefully I can get through this. And I always try. I used to take whole Sundays on these, but I try to combine them together now because you guys you hear this every year. Another great book to read if you've never read it before is The 5 Love Languages. Absolutely incredible. I would suggest these two books for any couple that's having problems, any new married couple, anybody like that, to read these books and to appreciate the differences in each other. To appreciate the differences in each other. You know, there's times that I frustrate Laura and she frustrates me in the way that she does stuff versus what I like to put stuff away. And she likes to put it right where she's at. She just sets it right down right there. And that's okay, because I'm going to go put it away. And that's okay. And I've come to appreciate those things like that in Laura. And not to get down on or anything, but I just want to share briefly, and maybe we can go over this a little bit more next week too, but I want to share the 5 love languages. There's 5 love languages that are out in that are here, and that everybody has one. And you can take a test, you can go online and just put in 5 love language tests. It'll come out. It's really simple. You just pick A or B, and there's like 25 or 50 questions. It's really simple to do. Then you add up all the A's, add up all the B's, and then of course the one that you have the most of is your love language. The first one that we have is the words of affirmation. This is just sharing words. Hey man, you're doing really good job. Hey, you look real nice today. It's little words like that. I love you. Words like that really encourage. I can tell you that my love language is words of affirmation. And that's a double-edged sword being a pastor. Just gotta be honest with you.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that wasn't my love language, because then it can boomerang on the other side. Because not only do the good words encourage, there's people in here that someone could say you're a dirty, rotten scoundrel and blah